Hi, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. It's Friday, January 29th. I'm Stephanie Haney, and I've got your top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thanks for choosing to be here to get filled in on the things that are important to you here in Northeast Ohio. We start off with an update on breaking news, a welcome update from the Bay Village School District. Bay High School was placed on lockdown today at 1 p.m. after reports came in that there was a student in the bathroom with a gun. Well, the latest that we're hearing now from Bay Village School District is that regarding the lockdown, nothing credible has been found. But Bay Village Police Department continues to do their due diligence, and the district is asking for people to stay updated for dismissal information. Now, at first, parents were asked to stay away from the Bay Village schools. They're still being asked to stay away from the Bay High School, and we're told from the Ohio State Highway Patrol that parents will be able to pick up Bay High School students at Bay Presbyterian Church. Stay tuned for details on that, but if you're not aware of where that is, that's located at 25415 Lake Road in Bay Village. Again, Bay High School was placed on lockdown at 1 p.m. when there were reports that came in of a student in a bathroom with a gun. So the school was placed on lockdown, and Bay Village police were doing a sweep of the school. Nothing has been found. There have been no injuries reported, but again, the officers doing their due diligence. And as of 2:36 p.m., nothing has been found, and people are being asked to stay tuned for that dismissal information. Turning now to an important update for something that's happening in the career space here in Northeast Ohio. The Westlake-based Hyland Software company has laid off more than 100 employees, and according to Cleveland Scene magazine, which was the first to report this, they were completely caught off guard, told about this in a recorded message that was played for them over Zoom, as many people are working from home. Now, Highland Software is one of the largest tech companies in Northeast Ohio, so they made that announcement about laying off those 100 employees as part of a multi-year strategic initiative, they say, to build a cloud-first platform for the future. Now, the company says that they are providing the employees who are being impacted by this with assistance in their transitions. We don't have the details on exactly what kind of assistance that means, but we do know that all of these 100 layoffs are from Highland's product delivery team. Now, Highland does say that it plans to increase its overall number of employees by 15% next year, but according to Scene magazine's reporting, the technologist jobs will likely be outsourced to India and Poland. Highland, not necessarily in a bad way right now. It brought in more than $500 million in revenue last year. That's according to inkfact.com. Also, bought a German-based software developer called Another Monday. That was in August. The company has been around for 30 years and currently employs more than 3,000 people, has been attempting to expand its global reach for some time. Unfortunately, for those 100 people who were laid off, they will not be a part of that plan. So we are thinking of those people today. Now, a lot of people are suffering in this pandemic, and third stimulus checks are something that are on a lot of people's minds, but maybe they're not communicating that to their representatives. So now President Joe Biden is taking what the administration is calling creative steps to push for the $1.9 trillion package that he would like to see passed to bring relief for people suffering from the pandemic in financial ways as well as health-wise. Democrats in the House and Senate are now laying the groundwork to start going at the process as soon as next week without Republican support to push forward on their own. What they're doing right now is they're putting together a budget reconciliation bill. Now, this would start the process to be able to pass that relief package with a simple 51 vote majority in the Senate. That's what the Democrats have. Now, otherwise, normally this kind of thing would require a 60-vote threshold in order to pass this legislation. This is something that we've been talking about. Yes, the Democrats do technically control the Senate, but a 51 vote is not necessarily what you need in order to pass these kinds of legislation. So the goal here would be to be able to pass the package by March. That's when jobless benefits, housing assistance, and other aid is set to expire right now. So a Republican Senate aide said that lawmakers' offices are just not getting calls about additional coronavirus aid right now, and that constituents are mainly focused on the upcoming impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. Now, this aide spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss these private conversations. President Biden said that he would like to get on a plane and see Americans face to face in order to encourage public support, but he simply can't do that. So that's why they're looking at these creative measures in order to try and get the legislation passed on their own without that Republican support. The Biden team has largely focused on reaching out directly to lawmakers on the other side of the aisle, but failing to generate that public pressure has seemingly made Republicans less than willing to deal on this on the administration's timeline as quickly as they would like to. Now, this has political implications, of course, for the Biden administration. This standoff is proving to be a political test. Is this a test of the Democrat-controlled Congress? Yes, it certainly is. And the role of Republicans in a post-Trump political landscape? Yes, it certainly is. Success would give the Biden administration a signature accomplishment in the first 100 days in office. It would be $400 billion to expand vaccinations and reopen schools, $1,400 direct payments to a lot of Americans, other priorities including a gradual increase of the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. And failure would be a high-profile setback for the Biden administration, not to mention leave a lot of Americans who need aid waiting in the lurch again. So we will obviously be following this closely and see how this develops as we wait for that impeachment trial to begin, which is scheduled to begin either February 8th or February 9th in the Senate. Now let's take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers here in the state of Ohio. These come in from the Ohio Department of Health. We've got good news today. The total number of cases in the last 24 hours is down. That number is 4,874. The total number of deaths in the last 24 hours is also down, but unfortunately 64 Ohioans have still been reported to have lost their lives, according to the Ohio Department of Health's data. Not lost their lives in the past 24 hours, but those deaths reported in the last 24 hours. When it comes to the positive rating, this data comes from Wednesday. The daily rate of COVID-19 tests coming back positive was 7.5%. That's up 0.1 of a percentage point. But the 7-day average stays the same at 8% from Wednesday. In the last 24 hours, there have been 166 new COVID hospitalizations. That number is down. And the total number of people in the hospital right now also down. That number, 2,706. And this is now the fourth day in a row that the total number of hospitalizations is below 3,000. That's a target that Governor Mike DeWine is looking at to increase the time that businesses can be open, to decrease the curfew, push that back to 12 midnight, which we will see in 2 weeks potentially if this trend continues. The total number of people in the ICU right now is 658, and we've seen 23 new ICU admissions in the last 24 hours. And right now, out of all the hospital beds in the state of Ohio, 29% of those are currently available for people who need to be admitted for inpatient treatment of some kind. Now let's take a look at the national and the global numbers for COVID-19. Across the U.S., the total number of reported cases, according to Johns Hopkins University, is now 25,817,479. And the total number of deaths across the U.S. is at 434,126. In the U.S., we have about 4% of the global population, but we have the most cases by far of COVID-19. We have 25.4% of those cases, that number staying steady from yesterday, and 19.8% of the global COVID-19 deaths. That number is up 0.1 of a percentage point from yesterday. Globally, the total number of COVID cases is at 101,778,799, and the total number of deaths related to COVID is now at 2,198,037. Now, as we learn about the new COVID variants being present here in the U.S., Canada is taking action in order to try and stop those variants from widespread in Canada. They will ask travelers now to quarantine in hotels at their own expense and are also suspending flights to the southern part of this area. They'll have to stay at a hotel at their own expense in order to discourage vacations, as people would not want to quarantine at a hotel at their own expense upon return. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made this announcement today because related to these contagious variants of COVID-19. So air service has been suspended to Mexico and all Caribbean destinations in Canada through April 30th. So Trudeau said, in addition to pre-boarding tests in Canada, which are already required, the government will now have mandatory PCR testing at the airport for people returning to Canada. Then you'll have to wait up to 3 days at an approved hotel for test results. at your own expense. And that price tag, get ready for this, $2,000. That's if you test negative and you are just required to stay in the hotel for 3 days. Then after that, if you test negative, you'll still be required to quarantine at home under increased surveillance and enforcement. Now, that cost includes the cost of the private PCR test, security, food, and cost of measures at the designated hotel in order to keep their workers safe. Positive tests, on the other hand, will be immediately required to quarantine in designated government facilities to make sure that they're not carrying variants of COVID-19 that are of particular public concern. In other health news, our 3 News Leon Bibb will be moderating University Hospital's Black History Month health webinar series. This will start on February 4th because, as you know, coming up next week, February 1st, kicks off Black History Month, and it will stream live via Zoom. This will be from 6 to 7 p.m. every Thursday in February. This is presented by University Hospital's Brain Health and Memory Center, and what this will include is a brief historical talk, followed by a presentation about medical information or social issues that are relevant to the Black community. These events, you can find them on Eventbrite, which we also have linked on WKYC.com. We have some news today out of the Cleveland Browns organization. They'll be wearing throwbacks as alternate uniforms for their 75th anniversary because the 2021 season is the Cleveland Browns' 75th anniversary, founded back in 1946. So Browns owner J.W. Johnson confirmed on 92.3 The Fan today that the alternate jerseys will be a part of the season next year. So we don't really know what they'll look like, but here's a couple hints that we can work from. From 1946 to 1951, Cleveland wore white helmets. Also, in its first season, it had drop-shadowed numbers on its jerseys, and sometimes the Browns wore orange uniforms. That includes in the 1950s and also in the 2000s. And also at certain times, they had numbers on their helmets. Here's another clue. The Browns released a throwback logo for their 75th anniversary today, and it includes a gray face mask. That's different. Right now, the Browns use a brown face mask on the helmet. So that's a potential hint at what those throwbacks might look like. As soon as we know, of course, we'll bring it to you. That'll come from our 3 News sports analyst, Ben Axelrod. By the way, he tweeted out a photo of that logo, so you can find him on Twitter if you want to check that out, Ben Axelrod. Also, it's linked on WKYC.com. Now, something that's a little bit closer than the next football season is Valentine's Day. It's coming up very quickly, just over 2 weeks away. Valentine's Day weekend is exactly 2 weeks away if you want to celebrate on Friday, but you can also celebrate on Saturday or Sunday because Valentine's Day falls on a Sunday this year. And it's shaping up to be kind of a DIY holiday because a lot of things are closed, and the things that are closed are going to be reserved, or the things that are not closed will be reserved pretty quickly. So if you would like to make a cocktail at home with your sweetheart, I enlisted the aid of some of Cleveland's best bartenders. I talked with Sixth City Sailors Club and Society Lounge owner Joseph Fredrickson, also beverage director Cassandra Holloway, and Timetable beverage director Eric Scott, and they recommended 3 drinks that you can make at home. Super easy to make. So those versions are the Madam's Rose, that's from Sixth City Sailors Club, that's a rum drink, and Cassandra's pick is the Blue Valentine, that's also a rum drink from Society Lounge, and Eric Scott of Timetable recommended a drink called the Thief of Roses, which is a gin drink with a special Ohio spirit. It's based on a gin French 75, but it uses Italicus, which is a new spirit in Ohio, in place of simple syrup, which will sweeten it up just a little bit. So there are versions that you can make. Those recipes are on WKYC.com. And after that, a perfect follow-up second date would be to try the drink in a little bit of an updated, upgraded version from the creators themselves. So you can get those to go from all 3 locations, and you can also get them in person at Timetable. And that's one of the places that has igloos, by the way, in Bay Village. So that's all linked on WKYC.com. Make sure you check that out. One more thing to let you know before you go, even closer, if you want to check this out, there's a very cool waterfall and icicle situation at Columbia Park in Bay Village. And our 3 News photojournalist Kelly Matter captured beautiful video and photos of what it looks like right there at Columbia Beach Falls and some ice forming at the park in Bay Village. This is just north of the intersection of Lake and Columbia Roads. Now, the ice hasn't totally frozen at the Columbia Beach Falls, but you can definitely see the process that's happening, and it looks very cool. Columbia Beach Falls, by the way, that's one of the few known waterfalls that actually cascades directly into Lake Erie. Pretty cool there. And we are anticipating, by the way, a winter storm system this weekend, so it's going to be cold, and that'll be continuing into next week. That's coming late Saturday night and early Sunday morning, so we can maybe see a handful of inches of snow for people from Columbus north to Cleveland. And there might be some sleet mixing in at times, by the way, south of the Ohio Turnpike. So if you are getting on the road and you're planning on checking out Columbia Beach Falls, just be careful while you do that. All right, that is your 3 News Now update for Friday, January 29th. I'll see you next up at What's New at 5 p.m. I'll be talking with you about what's on your COVID wish list. We have that on our Facebook page for WKYC. And I'll be sharing what's on your COVID wish list, meaning what do you want to do as soon as this is over and what you're looking forward to. So looking forward to talking about that and also your trending stories in the Clicking in Cleveland segment. Everyone, stay safe, be well, have a great weekend, stay warm, get outside, enjoy it while you can, and I'll see you back here on Monday. I'm Stephanie Haney.